Hello.
Hey.
Yankee Doodle came to town riding on a pony.
What brings you in, Skylar?
Looking for something cool to make a coin ring out of. You guys have anything?
We have foreign, ancient, colonial, and U.S. coins, some foreign notes.
Stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni.
Whoa, what is that?
That's 100 mon from Japan.
Shut up and take my money!
So we've got our 100 mon now. Since it's copper, I want to cast it into silver so I can make some other things with it. So how do we do that? This is a Delft clay kit that I got from Rio Grande the other day. And all it is this casting frame and some Delft clay. You know, I think gloves might be a good idea. Let's try that. Why do I keep my gloves in a plastic bag, you might ask? Just chop this up a little bit, get it broken up a tiny bit. Get a little baby powder on there just to make sure the mold doesn't stick together. I want the two parts to separate real clean. Alright, that's a pretty great imprint. I think that's going to work really well. Now we have these two sides cast. We need to think about the thickness of this mold. If you look at the coin like this, it doesn't look like it's too thin, but then if you cast it, inside here is really super thin. And the molten metal can't quite get into everywhere that it needs to in the mold. And we want it a little thicker for the jewelry we're using anyway. So what we're going to do is to take this half of the mold and scrape it out. Now this may look like a dog got a hold of it. Can you imagine who did it? So we have our two halves the way we want them to look. Now what we need to do is create a pour hole for our silver, and it's going to be on this side obviously because we don't want to damage the detail on this side at all. Now we need to put some vent holes. I'm going to put about 3 or 4 on either side here, and this time I'm going to use a little drill bit. That seems like it'll work a whole lot better. Now we just need to make little channels from the vent holes. Now just make sure everything's clear and free of debris. So that's going to work pretty good. Now we just need to take this and dig this out so we have a nice wide channel for the silver to go down into. Fill hole looks really good and big on this side, and it's got a nice funnel on this side. All my vent holes are clear. I think we're ready to start casting. So what we need to do now is put the two pieces together, and they have these indexing marks on either side, so that way you know that you're putting it together the right way. We'll line those up. Okay, I have my crucible ready to go. I got our mold sitting over here off to the side. And this is the silver I'm going to be using. This is actually all my deburring tool scraps. And I just melted a bunch of them down and created, this is about a 2-ounce chunk of silver, 90% coin silver. So we're going to throw that in there and melt it down with my rosebud tip that I have on my little torch, my little propane torch. And hopefully this will all melt down real good and we'll make a good casting. All right, let's break it open and see what we got. All right, so now we have all this burnt stuff we can't use, and we need to scrape all the burnt stuff out of our molds. And then once we do that, we can reuse the stuff that's not burnt. Now we gotta cut this sprue off and then clean up the rest of these little things that didn't break off and smooth the back out. Alright, we got the sprue off. Sprue, what do you call it? I think it's a sprue. Pretty sure it's a sprue. So for the first and easiest thing we're going to be making out of these guys is just a hanging pendant. And all we need to do is cut a hole in this and then solder a jump ring into it. Alright, that's all soldered on there and ready to go. And so we're going to antique this later, but we're going to wait for all of our projects to be done and we'll do them all at once. Alright, for our next one, I think we're going to make it into a more of a traditional ring. We'll sit like that. And what we need to do for that is get us some ring shank. Now for this last one, what I think we're going to do is cut the edges off just to thin it out, and then we're going to fold it over to make like an open backed ring. And maybe we'll see what happens. We'll see if we'll put a stone in the middle of that maybe too. But the first step is to cut these sides off. We need to soften the metal by annealing it, so that way we can start to bend this thing around the mandrel. You know what? This square area is a lot thinner than the rest of it, and it is bending a whole lot faster than the rest of it. I'm thinking we should use a ring bender. Alright, so here's my ring bender. We'll put this in there, and then this little Delrin piece will press against it without hurting the detail of the coin. And I was already doing it a little bit because I thought I was filming, but I wasn't. It's still too big, so we're going to just bring it down a little bit farther. Smaller. I think we're going to stop there. That seems to work pretty good. Okay, so we threw it in the pickle pot after getting it all soldered together, and it's nice and clean. And so what I want to do now is just do a little bit of cleanup on the edges here, just clean up some of the mess that might be there, and then we're going to be antiquing it. Once we get it antiqued, we'll get the stone set into it and do our final cleanup. Alright, we're all ready to start setting a stone. It's a pretty cool looking ring. And now I just want to polish those down a tiny bit, just to remove any catches that might be there. The stone is now set. Now these are all done, so we'll go ahead and antique these and clean them up and get them finished. Alright, we got our water nice and heated up. Put our liver of sulfur in. We'll throw these in. Alright, cool. So, from metal scraps from coin ring making to casting of old coins. Alright, thanks for watching to the end of the video. Make sure you check out my website, changeyoucanwear.net, for all the coin rings that I make. And remember, never be worried to step out of your comfort zone and try something new. This was my first attempt at sand casting. Alright guys, till next time.